Hi, I'm Mikaela, and this is Love Mikaela, a podcast where I talk about literally anything and everything I want to. Buckle up, today's gonna be a long one. I am, if you haven't been able to tell from the title, I will be talking about the Kdrama My Demon, which recently finished. I think the last couple episodes came out when this goes up, probably 2 weeks before or so. But I'm recording this a little bit early, so it recently, like a week ago, I think it ended for me. Anyway, we're gonna start off. I think that. Listen, I have 3 pages of notes here. I'm really trying to not make this too long, but it just might go long. You know, I can't control that. I mean, I can, but I'd have to really think about it, so I'm not gonna try to control that. So I honestly, a good page and a half of this is spoiler free. I would say like there's maybe only a page of spoilers out of the 3 pages. So there should be a good chunk you can listen to if you are interested in watching this show. I've seen online that it has had mixed reviews, just because people didn't like the ending, or like midway through they started to get bored, or it was too cliche, or whatever, stuff like that. So take what I'm saying with a grain of salt if you want to. You don't have to check it out if you don't want to. But just listen to what I have to say, and if it intrigues you, you might as well give it a try. Now that I think about it, okay, so I watched it as it was coming out, and I don't know if I'd be able to binge it, like just keep straight plugging through it. But I there were definitely, like, I was mad having to wait a week in between for every 2 episodes. So I liked it. I liked it. So if you don't like it, or you're worried you won't like it after what I say, then don't watch it. Like, no one's gonna force you to do it. Okay, let's start off with that was a super long intro. Let's start off with the synopsis. I pulled two. One is like a sentence long, and the other one is a couple sentences long. So, I'm just gonna read both of them. A pitiless demon becomes powerless after getting entangled with an icy heiress who may hold the key to his lost abilities and his heart. So that's the one sentence long one. And the longer one is similar, just has a little bit more detail. So it's heiress Dodo-hee is an adversary to many, and Jungwon is a powerful entity. When Jungwon loses his powers, he must collaborate with Dodo-hee to regain them, and sparks fly between them as they embark on their journey. So basically, it is the story of she's like the possible heiress, whatever, to a conglomerate company. She like is a CEO of her own company within that conglomerate, and she meets this guy who is, this is not a spoiler, it's literally in the first 5 minutes, who is a demon, and an interaction happens between them, and mysteriously, magically, he loses his powers, and she might be the one who can help him get his powers back. She's the one who can help him get his powers back, and so it's about their relationship, and what changes between them as time goes on, how they grow together, how they deal with the whole power issue. And then there's also a side story going on with her and her family, and this fight for who gets to be next in line to take over the full conglomerate. And it's like it's like a chaebol, is that what it's called? No, chaebol, I think it's chaebol. Oh my goodness, chaebol, no, chaebol. It's like the whole chaebol family drama meets demons, essentially. A demon, not multiple demons. But yeah, that's kind of the synopsis. Also, sorry if my voice doesn't sound super great. I'm dealing with congestion from the wind. My allergies are not happy right now because it's really windy for whatever reason. And then it's been cold, so our heater's been kicking on. That's been bothering me. So I might sound a little more congested than normal. My voice is a little bit more tired than it normally is, but we must continue. It must go on. So I'm going to start with the things that I liked, that without spoilers. And then I'll probably go into, I don't know if I can go into anything that I didn't like. Oh, there is one thing that I can go into that I didn't really like without spoilers. But so, no spoilers. Here are the things that I liked in general. The cinematography is so good in the show from the very first scene throughout the entire thing. I don't know. I should have looked it up. I should have looked it up. It's disrespectful not to look it up. I should have looked up who the cinematographer was because it was beautiful. But the lighting is so pretty in every single like shot that they have. And especially the ones where they used a bunch of fog and then they lit it and it just looks so good. Like the very first shot I believe is she's running through like the woods, not the woods. She's running on a road or like in an open area. It's really late at night. They filled they filled that area with fog. They like flushed it full of fog and they lit it so and it looked so pretty. She looked beautiful in it, but like it all looked so beautiful around her. And if you've never been on a set and had to work with fog, it can be really difficult for everyone involved. And it could take it could take forever, especially if it's an outdoor thing like that. Like I was on a shoot where it was very, I can't remember if it was late at night or early in the morning. It was really, really, really late at night, like late at night, early morning, like after midnight, and we had to wait like I think an hour or something for them to fill up a smaller area with fog. And it's this big machine. It's like this really long tube, and then it has little like smaller tubes with little holes coming off of it, and it's like a whole thing. It's really a whole production. So like they put time and effort into it, and it looked so beautiful. But the lighting was like really pretty everywhere. There are some shots that they had where it was like the light like my favorite thing, just in like you could see this in like regular life too, if you're like cooking and it's like if you maybe burn them a little bit, or if it's like foggy or something, like when you shower and it's really really hot, and if you have like small lights coming through, like my favorite thing is to see light like moving through like fog and like being I can't think of the word for it. My brain doesn't want to work right now. But like dissipating through. I just think it's so pretty, and so I really loved seeing it. Anyway, cinematography was beautiful. The lighting was great. I really thought that there were a lot of interesting camera like angles that definitely helped tell the story, but also just like they were just interesting, and like shots that were used, and it felt very like dynamic. The shots you can tell are like they were very specifically chosen. Like the way it was done was very very specific, and it definitely like is a way to help tell the story. I think sometimes the K dramas that I watch, and this is like not anything against it, I just feel like sometimes K dramas they don't really care about the artistic aspect of the cinematography as much as it's more about the story and the acting that's happening, which like isn't bad. Like we watch shows because we want to watch people tell stories and act, so like I don't have a problem with it, but it was just nice to see how how cinematic it like all looked. There was also I wrote this, I'm not gonna say specifically what it was because I don't want to spoil anything, but like even in the beginning they would focus, like you could like the camera will focus on certain things for like seconds, like it's like blinking and you'll miss it. But if you're paying attention to it and you kind of know how story works and how cinematography plays into telling a story, like it's so clear to be like, oh, they focused on that. Especially because I watched the whole thing and then I went back and watched the first two episodes just so I knew like what I was talking about when I was gonna do this. Um, like they linger on certain, like there's certain shots that they had where they would linger for a couple seconds longer than they would really need to, and it's because they're hinting to what's going to happen later on. They're foreshadowing, they're like helping tell the story. It was just like, oh, I loved it. And it was done so far in advance. Like the first episode, like if you go back and rewatch after you've watched the whole thing, like you'll notice things, you're like, wow, they like really like focused on this. And if you noticed that and picked up on it, like even subconsciously your brain would be like, oh, and then it would connect the dots for the story way later down the line, and it makes it so much more satisfying. It was so well done. And then at the very end, this isn't a spoiler, but at the very end there's a shot that has bubbles in it, and it was one of the prettiest things I've ever seen. Like the light was like nice, like I'm sure that they were bouncing because it was during the daytime, so I'm sure they were bouncing light around, and I'm sure they had a couple lights up, but the bubbles, and then they had like some shots where you could like see the people who were in the shot, you could see them through the bubble, and then they were not. It was really really cool. You just have to watch it. Like I can't explain it. You have to go watch it. It was so good. If anything, if you just want to see the cinematography, watch the beginning of the first episode and the end of the last episode for like the lighting of the fog and then the bubbles at the very end. It was just so pretty. It was so well done. I also really loved the sets. They were really beautiful. They were really elaborate. This very detailed. Specifically, my favorite set was there's this one like area for Jungwon where it's just like a bunch of clocks all along the wall, and they all are ticking at different times. And it just looks so beautiful and really emphasizes how important like time is, especially for him and his character, and how like a big part of his character is keeping things on time for a very specific, important reason. But it's just like, wow, what a way to introduce us to a character by showing us his space. And it's just this wall, like walls and walls and towers of clocks. It gives us great insight to who he is. And it also just looked beautiful. And it also is an important aspect of the story that like comes into play later on. It was just, I loved it. I loved it so much. So good. So good. And then the story itself, I just thought was really, really fun and really entertaining. And one of my favorite things is it had a lot of heart fluttering moments. That's really important to me. I know how story works. I know the hero's journey. I've gone, like, listen, I've taken the classes. I know. Are K-dramas the most innovative when it comes to storytelling? No, but that's not what I'm looking for when I go to, I mean, sometimes they are. Sometimes they will flip the script and it's crazy. And sometimes they like flip the script and it's like, it's crazy, but you also saw it coming, especially if you're really familiar with K-dramas and the format that they use. Then it's a little bit more predictable, but it's still fun. It's still done in a nice way. But my favorite thing, like, I'm not going to K-dramas because I want something incredibly new that I've never seen before. Also, I feel like that's almost impossible to do at this point, to do something incredibly new that no one's ever seen before. Like, we've been telling stories for thousands of years. Like, it's not going to happen. Like, you're not going to come up with an entirely original story. I mean, the hero's journey itself, it's like, that's a format, like, pretty much all stories follow. I mean, they don't all follow it, but like, you know, they follow it to a certain extent or they flip it to a certain extent. So there's not ever going to be anything incredibly new. I like K-dramas because I like that they're a little bit predictable. I like when they can surprise me. I like when they don't surprise me. I like the format that they follow. I find that entertaining and that's why I'm going to it. And my favorite thing is the heart-fluttering moments that I get when I watch a K-drama. I really feel like I don't see that in Western media very often. I feel like Western media is a little bit more heavy-handed with either innocence or with like sexuality and like sex and like the rawness of that. Like, I feel like we're kind of on two ends of the spectrum, and I feel like, or I guess sometimes we do hit the middle, but I feel like Korean like media K-dramas find this spot that's in between like the middle and the more innocent end, and like it's like right in the like right in between, and it's like that's exactly like that's my sweet spot, and for me personally what I like the most. And so because of that, I'm really drawn to K-dramas. And when they have more of those heart fluttering moments that make you like blush or like literally like kick or like giggle, like like I love it. Like they make you scream or they like make you cover like oh my gosh, like that's my favorite thing. And this K-drama had like so many of those kinds of moments, so I really loved it. Okay, those are some of the general things I liked. Or probably maybe I won't go back into that actually. Okay, so those are some of the general things I liked. I'm going to talk about the first episode now, because if you know, you know that when I say spoiler free, the first episode is pretty much fair game for me. I won't go into anything like crazy spoiler, but like the first episode is your introductory episode to basically any show, and so whatever you see kind of in the synopsis, there's going to be some of that with like some extra detail thrown into the first episode, because people need to be dropped into the world and need to get to know the characters. So there's going to be like it doesn't matter, like it's not spoilers to me. If I say spoiler free, first episode is fair game. Okay, that done. First episode is coming up, so I mean if you think that that's a spoiler, then you need to go out. This is not for you. So, first episode, I thought that they did a really good job of introducing the world and the rules. They do that from the like very beginning, the very get-go, with the flashback to the past and learning what a demon in this context is, what they do, who they are, if they have rules they have to follow. Like, it does a very good job. It's very simple, very straightforward, not confusing in any way. I also thought that it was fun to the way that they started the very first episode is, if you know the hero's journey, in my opinion, it was starting at the but right before the main character is crossing the threshold. That's where it starts in the first episode, and so it gives the audience kind of a main idea of the main plot of the story, of what we're really going to be dealing with and focusing in on. And it also gives us some insight into the female lead, which is cool. Like, I really liked that. And it also ends right before she does cross the threshold. So this is hero's journey from our female lead's perspective, obviously, because it's different for the male lead and for the female lead. But I just thought that was a fun point to start it at, was right before she's like crossing the threshold, like realizing like there's this new thing that's going to happen to her. We start with that. We go to the buildup of like up until that, and then we end it right as she's crossing the threshold. Like that's where their cliffhanger was. I thought that was a nice way to introduce everything in the world, but it gets you like kind of pumped up in the beginning, so you're not like it gives you a preview of what you can be expecting as the show is going on. And it also like still leaves you in a spot where it's like, oh, we're still like basically I just think it's cool that we get to start with her about to cross the threshold, and like the dialogue that happens, like you could tell like something's going to happen, something big is going to happen. And then the story goes on, we learn more about the world, introductory. It makes it, I don't know, a little more exciting and fast. It makes it feel more fast paced. And then when she does cross the threshold, you're basically crossing it with her, because if you continue the story, like it's the end of the first episode. So if you decide, okay, I'm going to continue watching this show, and I believe they released 2 at a time. So like you could watch the next episode when it was coming out. Now it's all out, obviously. When if you decide that you're going to continue to watch the show, you're crossing your threshold with the main like female lead, which I think is a really fun way to do it. And it was nicely done. I liked it. I don't know. I thought that the first episode also introduced the characters really well. Like Guan, which is our male lead, he's sort of cold and scary, but he's still kind in like his own way. There's the very first scene is him like kind of entering a place where a bunch of people are praying, and there's like a little girl left at the end, and he like doesn't do anything to her. He doesn't try to scare her. He doesn't do anything to her, which I thought was nice. And then like our next scene that we see him in is like a very comedic, funny scene, and that's also who his character is. Like his character is cold and a little mean, but he's like kind at times. We get that with our very first scene with him, and he's also like one of the funniest characters. And we get that with our second scene with him. And I think that was a really nice way to do it. And then we meet Dohee, who is like an underdog. She's underestimated, but she's still feared. We get that she's an underdog because the first scene that we kind of like meet her like in her normal world in is she's being underestimated by this man who like thinks that she is one of the waiters at an event, when actually she's being... Is she? I don't remember if she's nominated for an award, or like she's giving a speech about an award, or she like there's something to do where she's like either being rewarded, like awarded a thing, like her name gets called up and then she goes up onto the big stage. So we already see like she's considered an underdog, she's underestimated in life. But she's still feared because after like she like goes up, and the way that she reacts to him, like it gives us a lot of insight into her character as well. But the after like she goes up, like some guy like talks to the guy who like had assumed she was like the wait staff and was like, wait, you don't know who she is? And he's like, no. And then I have it written down so I don't mess it up. They said that in the industry they call her the IU of the dessert industry, or the devil in her maze, which I liked the devil in her maze because it was like a fun parallel, because Guan is like literally a demon or the devil. She's known as the devil in Hermes in her industry. I thought that was fun. And it shows us that like they're kind of going to be evenly matched going on with the show, like in their relationship, which I thought was just fun and cute. But yeah, they did a good job of introducing us to those 2 characters specifically, and we do get some insight into the side. I don't want to call them side supporting. That's what they're called. The supporting characters as well. We get a little bit of interest, like interesting tidbits about each of them. And I just, I think like they gave us really strong bits of information to kind of go off of, so we can really get an idea of who these characters are kind of from the get-go. As well as they introduce when they're introducing the supporting characters, they introduce the relationships that they have with each of our main characters. And they like also included some foreshadowing, for the relationships and how those relationships are going to affect the story as the story goes on, from the beginning, which was really nicely well done as well. I also thought that the meeting between the 2 leads was really well done. It was really fun. They play off of each other really well. They were really fun to watch. I liked watching them butt heads and seeing how like it was fun because both of them came into the interaction in a place of power. And they're both very stubborn characters as well, and so it was just fun to see them kind of bite back and forth. It's very rare that you see a scene where one person where both people feel that they have the most power. Actually, I guess it's not that rare. But I feel like they both felt like they had the most power, and they both did have the most power, like coming into it. Like I felt like they were very equally matched, and I feel like that's very rare to find in a scene, because typically that's not as interesting to watch as it is to watch someone who, like someone who has a lot of power versus someone who doesn't have a lot of power. And then the variations on that are the person with no power thinks they have power, and the person with power doesn't think they have power. You know, like who thinks they have power and who actually has power is different typically, or it can vary, and that's what people find interesting and more dynamic about scenes. But I liked watching a scene where two people who were both thought they were the most powerful in the scene, but both were about equal when it came to how much power they had in relationship to each other. That was really fun to watch because it made for such a comedic moment. And it was just like very, it was funny because they're also very stubborn, and so it made it fun to watch. I really, really liked watching them continuously butt heads and like fight and bite back at each other. And I think that really gives insight into what the relationship is going to kind of be like as the story goes on as well. And the casting for the show was just like really well done. Like I really liked it. I saw some people complaining about it, but I really liked it personally, and I love both of the actors who play our two main leads. I love both of them with my whole heart. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about the two of them now. So our male lead is Sung Kang, and he's just proven time and time again that he is an incredible actor and not just a pretty face. He's a beautiful man. He's so pretty. Like so pretty. The angles, he's just so beautiful. Like I'm so sorry, but he's very beautiful, but he is a very talented actor as well. He's not just a pretty face, like I said. And he's grown as an actor over the years. Like I'm pretty sure he's the one in Level Arm, right? That was like the first time I think I saw him was Level Arm, and then I watched him again in Sweet Home, and like he's a good actor, and he's very versatile. Which I don't know if it's rare. I just feel like we rarely see that. I feel like a lot of people, maybe not by their own choice, maybe by casting, they end up getting pigeonholed into certain things. But he has shown time and time again that he can do really any genre. He also did that ballerina. I think I wrote it down. Not, did I write it down? No, I didn't write the name down, but he did a ballerina one too. But like, it's not just the characters that he plays are different, because there's plenty of people who play different types of characters all the time, like really good people, really bad people, poor people, people with higher status. Like, there's lots of actors who can do that, but just genre wise, like I feel like he can kind of master and adapt to any genre he's thrown into. Like if you compare like Love Alarm and My Demon, like these kind of typical rom-com-y, maybe they're not typical, but like these rom-com-y K-dramas versus something like Sweet Home, which is much grittier and more intense. It's scary, it's kind of gruesome, and very dark, versus the like ballerina one he did. I think it's called like Navier. I don't know how to say it. There's a ballerina one that he does. Like that is very like dramatic and very serious, but it's not as gritty and intense as like Sweet Home is. Like he just does it all. He could do it all, and I think that's really, really incredible. And whether actors, like, I'm not going to lie, like a lot of times actors, like, you don't really get to pick what you do, right? You get picked to do things and then you do them, you know, like you could turn things down, but it's not like you can always be like, I want to do this genre, and like you don't really get a say in that unless you're making it yourself. But like he's proven that he can handle like any genre, and I think that that's really, really impressive. And he also handles really intense emotions very, very well, and like very difficult characters. I feel like a lot of his characters are very like trauma heavy, and he can tap into those emotions really easily, at least from what I've seen. But he also does like the flip side of playing these really not that they're not trauma heavy, but he plays these characters that are so funny so well. Like his comedy and his comedic timing is so good, and that's really impressive and kind of hard to find. And of course he's beautiful. Like what can I say? Like look at him, proportions, his face, like he's beautiful. He's a beautiful man. Like I don't know what to I don't know what to say. Like I'm tongue tied. Like he's beautiful. But he has like all the talent and the hard work and the acting chops to back it all up. So like I'm not mad at him being in a bunch of stuff. Like good for him, for real, seriously. Um our female lead, Kim Yoo-jung. I love Yoo-jung so much. I love her so much that I swore that I talked about her on a podcast before, but when I was looking back at the shows I've talked about, I don't think I've ever talked about her before, which was funny to me, but I guess I haven't. She's a really incredible actress. She's kind of been in the business for a really long time. She started as like a child essentially, and she's just continued to act since then, and she's grown like since then. Like you can see how much she's grown if you watch some of her older dramas versus what she's done now. I feel like she plays a lot of different types of characters really well. I haven't seen her do tons of different genres besides like historical versus modern, but the characters she plays have different nuances to them. Like this character in My Demon's very like high status in terms of like outwardly, but inwardly it's a little lower status at times just because of her background and how she was raised. But if you watch her in Backstreet Rookie or Love in the Moonlight, like they're all very different types of people and characters. But I feel like she always kind of adds her own spark and essence of herself. Like that always just kind of shines through every character. I don't know if it's something she does on purpose or if it's just naturally how her acting ends up. And you might be like, oh, so she's just playing herself every single time. No. The job of an actor is to play a character, right? But the reason that one actor, okay, not always, but when it's good, the reason why one actor will get picked over another, sometimes it's based off of looks, like sometimes it's superficial, I can't lie, like that's just the truth of the matter. But sometimes people get picked because what they bring to the character is different from what anyone else can bring. And the only reason it's different is because they're bringing themselves to that character. The tiniest part, a large part, it doesn't matter. If you bring parts of yourself or a singular part, there's someone on a motorcycle or something outside, or a singular part of yourself to that character, it'll make it different from what everyone else is doing. And that could be the reason you get picked. And I think she either works hard to or has this innate ability to bring a part of herself to every single character that just kind of shines through on its own in a way that doesn't detract from the character. That's very important. You don't want to detract from the character at all. And I think that's really magical. And the fact that she can do that is like really impressive. And I really like that. And she also handles really tough and emotional scenes very well. And she's really funny. Particularly, I really like her facial expressions. I feel like they're very, not dramatic, but they're very character-y, but not in a way that like comes off as cartoon-ish. Like it's just like it's very distinct and obvious. Like you could tell what she's feeling just by the way that she moves her face. And I really like that. And that's important for actors as well. And she's also beautiful. I mean, look at her. She's incredibly beautiful. And also, I don't say this often. This couple, they're both very beautiful, okay? Not that beauty is everything, but they're both very beautiful. They, like, I'm not someone who, like, will look at a couple and be like, oh, yeah, they look good together. This couple looks good together. They had good chemistry, and they looked good together. And if they dated in real life, I would not be mad about it. I'd probably be pretty happy. They looked so good. They looked really good together. It made it nice to watch on the screen. Not that that's most important, but that is one thing that I liked. Okay, here's the thing that I really didn't like. The one thing I didn't like, without any spoilers, is the wardrobe. Listen, they looked good in the clothes. That's not my complaint. My complaint is the clothes looked crazy. The clothes looked crazy to me. I was like, who picked this? Like, it was like they're walking the runway every single time they come on screen, like high fashion. Maybe not every time, but it was just stuff that I was like, who would wear this? I was like, who in the world would wear this? And maybe it was done on purpose to match their characters because they are kind of otherworldly or different and like kind of odd in a way. Like, Guwon obviously is a demon, so maybe he has a little bit of a different taste. And then, Dohee, I almost forgot her name. Dohee is, her background is she's not really familiar with, the like fashion of the world. Like I don't, they're different people being thrown into this other world, and so I get it. Like if that's what they were going for, that makes sense. But I was just like, I just didn't like it. I just personally didn't like a lot of the wardrobe choices that were made. Did it work? Did they look nice? Yeah. But if you put those outfits on, like even like these two are like incredibly beautiful people. even in terms of like Korean actor standards, they're incredibly beautiful. I feel like if you put like me, like a regular person, or even another Korean actor in those same outfits, it would not it would not have worked. So, you know, maybe the wardrobe was like, this is our one chance to do this. We gotta go all out. And they did it. That's cool. But it just like was not my style. Personally. Like there was even one part where like this is just funny and it's not like a spoiler. But there's one moment at the end of the show where Guwon has this sweater on and then the collar was like up. And I'm gonna try and put a picture if I can. The collar was like up. It's just gonna be a picture. It's not gonna be a video. So don't worry. I'm not like it's not anything crazy. There, but the sweater, the collar's up, and I burst out laughing when I saw it. I was like, oh my god, like they made a mistake. Like why didn't anyone in wardrobe fix it? And my mom was like, no, I think that's how it's supposed to go, because she was so used to how crazy some of this fashion was that she was like, no, the collar's supposed to be. It's a choice. It was a choice. I was like, no, it wasn't. And then I even like was looking. Now when she said it was a choice, I was like, was it a choice? I don't think so. And then I watched, and then I could tell there was a continuity error, scripty. There was a continuity error where there's like one specific angle of Guwon that you could see where the collar's down. So it's like, oh, they noticed, but all the other ones, like the collar's up. Like there's nothing you can do about it if that happens after the fact. Like you can't do anything. But I was just like, it's so funny that my mom and I both were like, wait a minute, was it a choice? Because the fashion was so crazy during it. Yeah, okay. That's all I can say now for no spoilers. So now it's spoiler time. We're already 30 minutes in. I'm gonna rush through this, okay? Because this is getting super long. I'm gonna try and make it like 45 minutes or less. We'll see. Just because I don't want to have to go through and edit all of it out. But spoiler time. Click away if you don't want spoilers, okay? Cool. Okay. So one of the things that people complained about, and honestly I'm not mad about that people complain about it, because it is becoming kind of a thing. The past lives trope. It has become so big in so many of the recent K-dramas, and people are getting sick of it. They're getting tired of it. It's like, it just feels like they can't make a K-drama without the past lives trope happening anymore. I'm gonna name off some of the recent ones that I've watched that have this. Good Day to Be a Dog. I loved it. Past lives in it. See You in My 19th Life. Obviously that's gonna have past lives in it. Destined with You. Obviously that's gonna have past lives in it. But like, there's so many more. It's not just those. Those are just the recent ones that when I was typing up my little notes that I could think of off the top of my head that I've recently watched. Like, it is so common now. You almost cannot watch a K-drama without a past lives thing being involved in it, whether it takes place in the present or like in the past, and then they like flash forward. Like, it's crazy how much they're doing with it. People are getting tired of it. They're getting tired of it. I personally don't mind it when it's like well done and it's done in a way that adds to the story and isn't just there to go along with the trend that's happening. But like, I can understand why people are getting tired of it, and there are plenty of shows that are just adding it in because they're like, well, everyone else is doing it, so we should do it too. It's like, no, like, we don't want that all the time. Yes, K-dramas follow a formula, but we don't need to copy and paste everything. Like, we could take some and spit out the rest. You know what I mean? That's a take. That I don't mind it in this one particularly. Like, it was fine. It didn't really bother me because it added a bit to the story. But I think sometimes, like, they don't add. They're just, like, there to be there. And that's not as fun to watch. Another thing I didn't really like. I'm just going to talk about the things I don't like, I guess. Let me see. Yeah, it's mostly stuff that I didn't like in terms of spoilers. Guwon dying. Okay, so I've had this idea from pretty early on that Guwon's last life that this would be Guwon's last life as a demon, because he's the 9th iteration of his demon self. That's why it's Guwon, because it's Gu for 9. And there was a lot of talk about the number 10 and the Wheel of Fortune tarot card. Like, that came out, and the Wheel of Fortune tarot card is number 10 in the deck. And there was talks about, because like the Wheel of Fortune tarot card is about like cycles and cycles ending and new things happening. And so I was like, okay, he's number 9 now. Number 10 is really important. So I thought his next life, his 10th life, would be when he'd become like mortal, or would be his last life as a demon, and then he would become mortal later. Like, I don't know, but I had a feeling that it was going to be like his last and he'd become immortal basically after his 9th iteration was done. And so then when he almost died the first time, and then they celebrated his birthday, like, she got him the little cake and everything, I was really shocked that he wasn't fully human yet, because like that's where I thought the story was gonna go. I wasn't mad though, because like he kind of needed to stay a demon, because though he was still going through all of that stuff where she needed to be protected, and so him having his powers made me feel as a viewer more secure that like she would be okay and like things wouldn't go bad. Usually K-dramas don't kill off their main people, but sometimes they do. So I was a little bit nervous. So I wasn't mad that my prediction like didn't come out, and that was fine with me. Um and also because I felt like he had become more human in terms of his emotions and his empathy. And so I was like, okay, it still felt satisfying. Like, okay, he's not fully human, but he's becoming more human. And so that made sense to me. That, like, the cycle of him being very cold and very just, like, not caring about humans in any capacity, like, that part of him had kind of, like, died, per se, and had been reborn as a human, as a mortal this time around. So I wasn't that mad about it. But then at the very end, which is why this is in the spoiler section, when he dies, like, or almost dies, the very end when he almost dies was so crazy to me. One, Dohi like, not dodging, jumping in front of the bullet for him was so crazy to me, because I was like, we all know he's a demon. We've all seen him heal himself, even when he didn't fully have his powers. Like, if he was around her and he could, like, hold onto her wrist so he could access his powers, he could heal himself. Like, him getting hit by a bullet wasn't gonna do anything. Like, it wasn't gonna kill him. He wasn't gonna die. At least as far as my understanding of the rules of the world went for him and his powers, I didn't think he was, like, it might hurt for a bit, but he could heal himself. He wasn't gonna die. So Dohi jumping in front of the bullet to save him, I was like, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? When it's going to kill her, but it's not going to kill him. Also, I feel like she died kind of fast, because he can heal people, but, like, the rule is that he can't bring someone back to life or kill someone, right? That didn't have to happen. Like, I feel like if he had acted a little bit faster, instead of being like, oh my gosh, she's gonna die, like, he probably could have saved her, first of all. But she shouldn't have jumped in front of the bullet in the first place. I was like, girl, what are we doing? Like, what's going on? That was crazy to me. It was nonsensical. It didn't make any sense. And then for them to bring him back later on, and for God, the character God in the story, to be like, oh, it was a Christmas miracle. Which my mom, like, he came back to life, and me and my mom looked at each other like, what is happening? And my mom went, what if they're like, it's a Christmas miracle? Like, she was joking about it. And then I was like, no way, they're not gonna say that. Like, I was like, that's too lazy. They're not gonna say that. And then they're like, it's a Christmas miracle. And I was like, are you kidding me? Was it actually a Christmas miracle? No, because then they later go on to explain that, like, there was a wish, like, he won the bet, essentially, with God, and so, like, his wish was granted, and she wished for, like, God was like, oh, well, Dohi made the wish and, like, said she'd make a deal, and so I made the deal with her because you were there to make a deal with her. And he's like, oh my god, so she's gonna go to hell. And then in that moment, I was like, oh, because God was like, oh yeah, the payment for it's already been done, like, for him to be brought back, because that was Dohi's wish, right? Normally the payment is the person who makes the wish then has 10 years with that wish, and then they have to go to hell and they die, right? So in his head, he's like, and then she goes, like, slyly, the character God is like, oh no, it's already been paid for, like, you don't have to worry about it, not a big deal. And then in my head I went, oh, okay, so to solve the issue, because Guwon is still a demon, Dohi is a human, they're going to die, like, he's never gonna die, she's gonna die, he's gonna be miserable when she dies, right? Because the whole thing was, oh, they need to be reunited after their past life, you know, that was the whole thing. My head was like, oh, the payment is Dohi is going to, once Dohi actually dies, she doesn't have to wait the 10 years, or maybe she can wait the 10 years, I don't know. I don't know if the 10 years was going to come into play or not, but in my head, my thing was, oh, the payment is she's going to also become a demon with him, and then will then make deals with him, and then they can both be immortal and live together forever. That's what was in my head. I was like, oh, okay, that kind of would make sense. And then she's like, no, because you won the bet. God was like, you won the bet technically, because you were alive, and you were both alive, and you got the powers back, and so I granted her wish. And I was like, okay, cool. It wasn't just a Christmas miracle. We explained how he got back. But he's a demon and going to live forever, and Dohi is a human and is going to die. Would Dohi want, like, the character, would she want to live forever? I don't know. I don't think so, honestly. I don't think she would. But she might, because of Guwon. Like, she didn't want to live without him. So maybe she would. I don't know. But it didn't solve the problem of, okay, so they're going to be together for until she is alive, and then until she, like, then when she dies, he's going to be alone. Like, that's awful. And, like, they don't even address it, really, except for the very, very end of the show, Like, it's like the second to last scene or something, where he's like fussing about her health and doesn't want her to eat anything sweet, even though she loves sweets and is the owner of a dessert company. Um, he's fussing over her and her health because he's like, humans don't live very long, so you have to be really healthy so that you can live forever, like as long as you possibly can. Like, why don't we could have solved this if she became a demon, but okay, whatever. But other than that, it doesn't really get addressed, and it's more like played off, and it's kind of goofy. So that was just like not super great. The religious stuff I didn't really love. The religious undertones, like the very last two episodes, it felt very odd, very out of place because it was so focused on. I was like, whoa, I didn't feel like we were doing that during the whole show, and now we're like really honing in on it, and that was very odd to me. Like, odd choice, really odd choice. Not my favorite, but it is what it is. I did like learning the truth about the deal with her parents. I thought that was a nice way to like add more of a redeeming quality to what's going on and to remind us that like Guan, yes, had a resentment towards humans because of his past, but also like did still care about humans in a very deep way and could not focus too much on the bad side of the deals, because if he did, like, I don't think he'd ever make any deals when a lot of the deals were saving other people's lives that the people cared about. And so it was a nice way to kind of give us more perspective on that. And it made it so it wasn't like super weird that they were still together after he like essentially killed her parents. The progression of the relationship was really fun to watch. I loved watching Guwon slowly fall in love with Dohee and like the warmth of that relationship start to take over him like as a person and his personality. And then it would ebb and flow as the show went on, which I felt was more realistic than like, sometimes in the shows like they fall for the person, then they're only into the person for like a while. Or like they have, that like there's like that one moment where like they fall out and then they go right back in. But I felt like his was very much ebb and flow, like back and forth, like very much like wondering and pondering if this is the right thing to do because of like who he was and what he did for a living, and then like finding out little tidbits about her and like maybe we are compatible, maybe we aren't. Like I liked watching that. I thought it was a fun way for them to do it. And I also thought it was funny to just see like the care being only on the tattoo and his powers, and then slowly shifting to like that turning into care about her as a person. We got to just kind of watch him melt and become more human, and I really liked that. I thought it was fun, and the way that they did it was nice and felt a little more realistic than some of the other K-dramas. And again, it's not that I have a problem with those. It was just nice to have a little bit of a change of pace. The cousin or great uncle or whoever he was, I was really sure that he was going to die or end up evil. So it was a really nice surprise that that didn't happen to him. And then he actually was a double agent. I liked that. That was nice. It was a fun little moment for me. Predictable, but I've said a lot of times that I like K-dramas because they're predictable, and follow a formula. It was a predictable show, like, I'm not gonna lie. There were some twists and turns here and there. Some things were reversed around, but it was, like, fun to watch, and it's the familiarity that I enjoy, and, like, that's why I watch them, and so I didn't mind it at all. So if you don't mind that it's a little bit formulaic, then you'll probably like it. But if it really bothers you, if it's like kind of formulaic or kind of like predictable, then you might not like it. There were parts that did shock me that I was surprised about, but like it is what it is. You know what I mean? You kind of know what you're getting into when you go into it. But this one's pretty formulaic. There's some stuff that's different, but not all of it is. I did really like the end, aside from ignoring that she's human and he's still immortal. I really like seeing all the supporting cast, all the supporting characters get their endings, whether they're happy or just satisfying. I like when shows do that, the little wrap up. Some people don't like that. Some people are like, it doesn't matter, I don't care about it. But personally, I like having all the little ends kind of tied up, because then I feel like I can fully move on. A lot of times I don't like finishing shows because I want to live in that world for a longer time, and then I feel like I'm not satisfied with how the world ended, like, because the show is over. Because a lot of shows I feel only wrap up the two main characters, which I think most people probably don't care about all the side stuff, but I am someone who does. And so when a show does do that, like the last 10 minutes, and they spend like tidying up and finishing up and bookending everyone's story, including all the like supporting characters, I like when they do that. And this show did that, and so I really I appreciated that a lot. I also really liked seeing the like fighting scene between Guwon and Dohee at the very end after a very sweet scene, to show like, because we're not like this show is not going to get a second season. Like, it doesn't need one, and it's just not going to happen. The show wrapped, like, it had a very sweet moment with them as a couple, and then a moment where they're kind of fighting and it's funny and it's comedic and they're bickering. but they still love each other at the end of it. And I liked that the show ended with both of those scenes kind of side by side, so we could see how their relationship theoretically, like if you just want to imagine what would happen in the future, that's how their relationship would go. Like it would be a back and forth kind of thing. Like they're not just going to be, it's a roller coaster. They're not just going to be like honeymoon phase the whole time. Like they're going to fight sometimes, but they're also still going to love each other at the end of it. And I really liked that they included that to just kind of give the viewer a more satisfying end to the relationship and seeing how things were going to go. Yeah, okay, no more spoilers now. Okay, cool. So, no more spoilers. This is going to be really short. Listen, I kept it about under 15 minutes, so that's good. 50, not 15. I'm just going to say the drama was fun, predictable but fun. The acting is really great. The people are very pretty. If you like a chaebol drama with some romance and some comedy thrown into it and you don't mind if it's predictable, then I would recommend this drama for you. The ending isn't the best, but it didn't ruin it for me, and so it might not ruin it and you might not mind it either. Would I recommend this drama? Yes, I would, as long as you don't mind it being a little bit predictable, and you don't mind if the ending is like not super satisfying but still a little bit satisfying. Like the ending, you might not like it, but it didn't ruin it for me. Like I didn't mind the ending and there were parts of the ending that I really enjoyed, so it might not be an issue for you. But I would recommend the drama. I liked it. A lot of people didn't like it, so if you want to go listen to someone else's review, so there's some quicker ones than mine on TikTok, or other platforms, and you want to hear some other opinions on it before you decide to watch it, go do that. But I would say at least give the first episode a try, and as long as you don't mind if it's a little bit predictable and a little bit formulaic, lots of K-dramas are, then I would say go for it. I don't think it's a problem. My TLDR, I think one of the important things that you learn in the show is, not that you learn, but that you're reminded of in the show, or maybe you learn it, I don't know, is that you can't really have the good without the bad, or it's hard to recognize the good without the bad. And it's important to leave yourself open to fully experiencing emotions because you might not know what you're missing. And that being able to feel like deep and intense things and feelings is part of the beauty of being human. There's good in the world, there's bad in the world, and all we can really do is hope that the people who do good and that the good that exists in the world kind of tips the scale a little bit more than the people who do bad or the bad that exists in the world. And if you can and contribute to tipping towards more good, then do that if you can in your life. I think that it's not hard to do, especially in little ways around you. Like I just think it's prevalent, especially if you're looking at Guwon's character. He kind of like realizes that because he had so much good in his life, like things were so easy for him that he didn't really cherish and appreciate those moments because he didn't really have any bad until later on. Then more things start to happen. Yeah. I'm just seeing if there's anything I missed. Yeah, just kind of hoping that the good and the good people can outweigh the bad and the bad people in this world, and doing your best to kind of tip the scales in that direction if you can in your own life, even with just your own small circle of people around you. And we might not be able to do much. We might just be stuck in these same cycles, but that's kind of part of what makes being human is just doing what you can, even if it's futile, even if you don't notice it's making a difference, or if the difference is tiny. It's just kind of part of life. Like, you don't really know who you're affecting or how you're affecting them, and so if you just do your best to kind of try to be a little bit more good than bad, I think that's really all you can do. And if you can take time to appreciate all of the good and take in the bad and accept the bad, you'll probably just be a bit more fulfilled and happier in life. Yeah. That's kind of all I have to say. I know this was a longer one. I'm so sorry about that, but I had a lot to say about the show, and it was a long show, and there was a lot of stuff that happened in it. So, if you spent all of this time with me, you stayed here the whole time, thank you so much. I appreciate you, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, morning, evening, night, weekend, weekday, whatever it is for you, and I hope I will see you next time. Love, Mikaela. Bye!